All right.
As a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Aquilini.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
And we are live now. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast, where we are currently sitting at 100 and Jason Weimer of subscribers. There's a blast from the past. As well as you can subscribe to the audio as well. We are recapping. Hello, Sean, first of all. Hello, let's be polite. Hello.
Hello, Kevin. Yeah, I'm just waiting. I'm really enjoying your random hockey jersey number polls here. Like, do people even know who Jason Weimer is?
Former Flame. Back in the 90s, he was part of the Young Guns era. Should I expand on who some of these players are? I don't. I mean, you know, it's hockey history. I do have hockey history. I know these players. Should I do that?
I think you should going forwards, because especially if you're pulling players like Jason Weimer, who has what did he even how many? Let's see here. Yeah, he played 4 seasons. He's holy crap. He actually had 726 NHL games.
Yeah,
but he's one of those also rans who just was one of these third or fourth line players who you don't remember.
Yes, that's why I like to bring them up. So I will explain historically when we go forward with these. But we also want you to also like and subscribe to the videos, share with your friends as well. We would appreciate that. The more likes we get, the more people will start to notice our videos. So we would really appreciate that. And we would appreciate the subscribe and the shares as well. That's the more important thing as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, please please subscribe, please share if you like what we do here, because we definitely want to be able to spread this crazy little podcast a little wider.
Yes. Devin is, I think Devin won't be joining us, but I think he's angry. I think what happened here is he learned that the CN Tower has been adorned with Montreal Canadian colors, and he can't even speak with the rage of anger that he has.
I was thinking it was either that or you brought up the Mark Stone trade again.
Oh yes, I may be bringing up that again. We'll yes, I have a message a little bit later on for the Calgary Flame fans out there. That is sort of similar to what Sean said about Tyler Toffoli. And so we'll bring that up a little bit later on. But we have to start with the elimination. The Tampa Bay Lightning were 2 years ago. Wait, no, hold on. 2018. The Tampa Bay Lightning were the 2018-19 season, right? I got this right?
Yes, it's the 2019 playoffs where they got swept by Columbus.
Yes. They have won 6 straight series. Since then, they are 28-7 in the playoffs. A fantastic series against the Carolina Hurricanes, but they ultimately came away with a 2-0 victory and are part of the Final Four, heading to the conference finals, playing the winner of the Boston Bruins New York Islanders series. This is the example of why you have to learn how to win by losing in the playoffs. If the Tampa Bay Lightning are an example of why losing sucks, don't get me wrong, but when you can learn from losing, which the Tampa Bay Lightning have, that's a valuable lesson. And they have taken that lesson and they have learned from it, and they are perennial Stanley Cup contenders.
Yes, they are. They've got a really good blue line where they've made a couple of shrewd moves to pick up McDonough and Sergachev to fill out behind number one franchise defenseman and Norris nominee again, Victor Hedman, as well as they've done some amazing drafting. We're picking up Kucherov and Braden Point not at the top of the draft. And you need that. You need players who you've drafted late in the first round, second round, and later to pop into your top six, if not high. And if you're lucky, like the Lightning, even higher, and have two top line players to be able to take that next step and become a perennial contender. Because without that, you're just relying on your top end picks to hit. And the Lightning have Stamkos and Hedman, but they've also gotten success outside of their top end draft picks. So that's what creates a good team. It's not tanking and getting high draft picks. It's having good scouting and getting good players later on in the draft.
Yeah, and it's getting a good combination of what John Cooper has called Jeeps. And if you have a garage, you need a Jeep, you need a big truck, you need a Ferrari, you need a Porsche, motorbike. You want all kinds of different things in your garage. Like ideally, if you're a car person, and the Tampa Bay Lightning have that. Like they have built a pretty complete team. Now,
I was about to say you can quibble with that because I think there's an argument to be made that they've circumvented the cap.
I was just about to say you could argue about the cap circumvention. And look, I mean, maybe Nikita Kucherov is all of a sudden injured next year for the entire season and comes back for the playoffs next year. Who knows? But they've been able to find a way to. I know that some people are frustrated by that, but that's the rule. They've gotten around it.
Now, I think the big question is this the last year that they can keep this team together? And is this if this is the last hurrah because they have they've got. Let's see, their Jeeps need to be re-signed in Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow. They're losing their backup goaltender in Curtis McElhinney, and they have negative $5 million in cap space to do that going into next year. I think this might be the last year we see this team being as potentially dominant as it looks like they are. I think they're going to have to make some big moves to try and clear up cap space so that they can bring back Goodrow and Blake Coleman, because I think those guys are huge parts of this team. Who's going to get picked? Are they going to get lucky enough to get to have Seattle pick one of their top, like a higher paid player to help them with that in the expansion draft, or are they going to be looking at or is Seattle going to be looking at someone else? I look at their roster and I think this is the last year that they have that they're going to have be able to keep this team together. I think they're going to have to lose a couple key pieces to become cap compliant. And I really, really hope that the NHL starts cutting down on these trades for injured players to create a fake cap space, because that's not what that's totally, in my opinion, that's totally against the whole point of the cap. You've already like poo-pooed and outlawed other ways that sort of strong markets have been able to get around the cap. Why not? Why are you letting this happen? And I think it is something that needs to be looked at. If they're able to find a way, and NHL doesn't stop them, and they're able to find a way around it again, that's something. But I do think that this is the last year that we see this group together for the most part.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we look at that division next year. There's a lot of changes. I mean, I do think Florida is going to grow from their experience to. We've talked about the Leafs. You've got the Canadians, who they're built for playoffs. It's Detroit and Buffalo are in that division too. So, but who knows? But there's 5 teams, and Ottawa. I forgot about Ottawa. But there's certainly 5 teams that can compete for a playoff spot. So who knows? But they right now for Tampa Bay, I mean, they've clicked all the buttons, and they're learning how to win. And I mean, look, I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about Carey Price, and we'll be spending a bit of a chunk of a time talking about Andre Fleury, but Andre Vasilevsky, has been, okay, how do I word this? Because there's 2 ways to look at this. Vasilevsky has been outstanding, and I think Tampa Bay has been a little fortunate in not only because they've had Vasilevsky, but the other teams so far, Florida and Carolina, at times have not got the goaltending they've needed.
No,
and
but you can't control that, and Vasilevsky's been good enough, if not better than good enough, in his performance this season and in these playoffs. So he's a Vezina nominee. I think he's probably going to win the award, and I think it's add to the riches that Tampa Bay has. They've got a Norris Trophy nominee on the blue line. They've got a Vezina nominee in net, and then they've got Braden Point, Kucherov, Stamkos up front. Let alone all the rest of they've got some really good pieces behind those players up front too. Like it's an embarrassment of riches on that Lightning team.
Yeah, and we'll see where they're at coming up here in the next round, whoever they're playing. But I had them going to the Cup final, and I don't see anything yet that changes my mind. But we'll see what happens there. Well-coached team too with John Cooper. You got to give him credit. And keeping the tradition that Steve Yzerman built. I mean, give them credit. For Carolina, if I'm Carolina, this is the interesting thing for Carolina. It is, as we look at into their offseason, and we'll be doing, by the way, we're doing offseason plans for all 32 teams in the National Hockey League as we go forward. We're 31 because the Kraken don't have an offseason plan yet. We don't know.
Well, we're doing their expansion draft anyways, so
yeah. So
teams.
we're focusing on all 32 teams. But for the Carolina Hurricanes, the key thing that they need to do, quite simply, is make sure they bring back Rod Brind'Amour and their assistants. That's the priority. That is number one priority.
I don't think it's number one with a bullet, because there's still a couple players that need new contracts, so they're very key players, namely Dougie Hamilton on the blue line, and don't forget about Andrei Svechnikov up front. He needs a new contract. He's an RFA, so it's not it's a little bit, but yeah, between Svechnikov, Brind'Amour, and the coaching staff and Dougie Hamilton, that's their 3 priorities for this offseason.
Yeah, to me, I think the first thing is bringing back Brendan Moore brings back stability. So brings in, and it's very clear that that's what he's brought to this organization. And first of all, I admire him that he's standing up for his assistant coaches. I think kudos for that. And certainly he has brought a different identity to this Carolina Hurricane team than in the past. So, and you're right, they got to sign Dougie Hamilton. They got to decide what to do there. They got to decide what to do with Svechnikov. They also they don't technically have a goaltender under contract next year. Alice Nedeljkovic is an RFA, but Reimer, Mrazek, and Antoine Bibeau are the goalies on the roster, but they're UFAs. They're going to lose I think they probably will lose a fairly important piece in the expansion draft. I wouldn't say like a franchise changing, but they've got some decisions to make. They've got some gritty pieces that they need to decide about as well. Jordan Marchinook, Brock McGinn, Cedric Paquette. I don't think that they need to. That being said, I don't think they need to make a major shakeup in the offseason. This isn't a team that I look at as needs to say, "Oh man, you need a big piece there." They can be really shrewd and smart and possibly try to find some medium type acquisitions and even a couple of shrewd trade deadline moves. Find the Hurricanes. I'm not doing anything I'm not trying to bring anything major from the outside.
The only issue with that, Kev, is that the expansion draft. And they're going to lose a very good piece to this team in the expansion draft. Because you look at that blue line, like even if they go 4-4, like I'm assuming that they're going to get if they bring back Dougie Hamilton, and I don't know why they wouldn't. They've got the cap space. He's a big part of that blue line, right shot guy. But after that, you got Jacob Slavin, who's also an automatic protect, in my opinion. Then you've got Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, and then Jake Bean is someone who I think needs to be elevated up the lineup a bit if possible. So they've got the fact they do have a lot of cap space and they do have a very strong team, but they're going to have to figure out what's going on with that expansion draft. And that is before they even look at trying to augment this team in the offseason. They have to figure out how to navigate that and not lose potentially a Brett Pesce or a Brady Shea if they decide not to go with the 4-4. Because if they with that, if they're only protecting 3 defensemen, like you're going to end up having to deal with that. So either you have to work a deal with Seattle to try and protect an extra defenseman with having them not picking one of those defensemen, or you have to make a deal to try and work something out with another team to try and make a trade that works for to bring in, say, someone who it doesn't need protection, who is a little bit younger and doesn't need protection.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though is they don't need to make a major they don't need to make an earth-shattering move. They can make shrewd moves, which includes expansion, to try to keep this team as close together as possible and try to augment what they have and just build on it. So they're not in the Ovechkin or Philip Grubauer or anything like that. I mean, you're trying to sign Dougie Hamilton, so you're in that, but I don't think you're in I don't see a major trade necessarily coming from Carolina.
I see a major trade, but that'll be expansion draft related.
Yeah, but we're not they're not for example, William Nylander is not going to Carolina. That wouldn't be a move that I can see happening. What I could see happening, ideally, if I am Carolina, is I look into trying to bring in someone like a Corey Perry, a veteran who's won a cup or two that could just add a little bit of that veteran experience into the lineup. A Corey Perry or a Milan Lucic if he's bought out, someone like that. I think that would be a good thing to add if you can get at a pretty reasonable rate.
Yeah, I think that's something to look at. Also, I think looking at the goaltending, I think they found something. They've got something in Alex Nedeljkovic, but they still think they need a good veteran backup. And do you think that's Mrazek or Reimer, or do you go out elsewhere and maybe go get someone who's gone to a cup final and just wants to play one more season type deal, like a Tuukka Rask or a Pekka Rinne. Is there anyone else out there that maybe Lundqvist is looking at coming back again type deal? But I think that might be something that we see them do as well.
Have you heard? I've been looking. Have you heard what Kevin Woodley has said about Nedeljkovic?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
Because
that second goal last night was not good on the Nedeljkovic. He got caught cheating across the ice and let in a short side below the glove goal, and I think that's not one you want. You need your goalie to stop that in an elimination game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm just curious because he seems at times very loud in the sense that he doesn't. And that comes with experience. He just seems a bit more. He needs probably, I would assume, to quiet his game a little bit. Certainly, I mean, I would bring him back, but that's where I would think that it needs to work. Because to me, this series came down to Nedeljkovic allowing a bad goal, and Mrazek allowing one bad goal in each of the games that they lost. That was pretty much the difference.
But that's also sort of the threshold between a average NHL starter to a good NHL starter and above. That was something that Markstrom struggled with until the 1920 season, when he basically did not allow a bad goal all season for the Canucks. And then learning a new system and everything, he regressed back a bit this year with the Flames, but you have to figure that's what's changed. That's what is the difference between a good goalie and an average goalie in NHL, is how many sort of bad goals they let in. Because a lot of these goalies are athletic enough, smart enough, well trained enough to, when they're on, they see the puck, they're going to stop it. But it's making sure that when things falter, that you're not allowing a bad goal in bad situations or multiple bad goals in the game.
Yeah, but that, I think that also comes with experience too, and I think he's going to grow. He'll grow. I think that's the thing. So
Nedeljkovic is the goaltender of the future. It's just who they bring in to be his 1B next season.
Yeah, that's I guess those questions for Carolina, I think. But overall, I think Carolina. I like that Carolina team overall, and look forward to seeing what happens with them next year. And
like I said, I think the biggest thing for me is what happens around that expansion draft with them. Who do they lose? Do they go for a full eight skaters and protect for their big defensemen, or do they? But if you do that, you've got the potential to lose a really good forward up front as well, because Jordan Staal is your captain and needs protection because he's got a no movement clause. Then you got Sebastian Aho, that's an automatic. Teuvo Teravainen, automatic protect. Vincent Trocheck is your second line center, automatic protect. Like, after that, you've still got some really good young players that could get exposed to and then Andrei Svechnikov. They've got enough depth up front and good forwards up front that going full eight skaters and protecting four defensemen may not be the right way to go, and they have to get creative. And there's teams out there that should be looking at Carolina as a potential trade partner to try and relieve them of some of those issues.
What was I going to say? Yeah, who has Carolina in our expansion thing?
That'd be Devin.
Okay, it'll be fascinating to see what he does there, what he did there. Yeah. That's interesting. The other game,
I'll just say that Devin has them doing 7-3, 7 forwards protected and 3 defensemen, which would leave one of Shea, Pesci available, and Jake. Don't forget about Jake Bean, who would be someone that Seattle should be scrambling to get if they have the opportunity.
Yeah, that would be a guy I would be looking at for sure. Let's hop to the other game last night. First of all, I'm going to pat myself in the back. I tweeted out that Mark Stone would be the overtime goal scorer for the Golden Knights, and then I had Gabriel Landeskog for the Colorado Avalanche. And Landeskog almost put it away, so I almost had it there, but then Mark Stone in on the breakaway. So, first of all, I rarely pat myself on the back, but no one on the Hockey Night in Canada panel picked Mark Stone. I did. Just saying. Anyway, okay, I'll stop. Man, I think that this, just personally, I think that this was a huge win for Vegas on 2 levels. First of all, they were the first team to win on the road. Second of all, they came back from a 2-0 deficit in the third period, which included a huge penalty kill where they allowed this vaunted Colorado Avalanche power play. No shots. Part of me, Sean, is like, I got to stick to my guns and stick with Colorado and think that this is going 7. But in terms of, and you never know what can happen in a game 6 and what happens, we can always see. But I got to also think that is a knife to the gut to the Colorado Avalanche. How you lost that game last night. That's a hard way to lose if you're the Avalanche.
It's a huge. It is a gut punch. It is a knock you to the ground, and you're trying to get up from the 10 count type of game. They were up 2-0. You give up that lead and then lose in overtime, and you had a 2-0 series lead, and now you're down 3-2, going to Vegas. Like, it's not like they lost this in Vegas, and now they're going home to try and do that. They have to stave off elimination in Vegas, and they're a younger team. They're a team that hasn't been able to get past the second round with this since they brought in McKinnon and this core. They won't get Kadri back until Game 7 if they can win on tomorrow night. I said this before, and I think it's even more poignant now. Whatever happens in this series, this series will be the one that we look back at this Colorado team and point to as the turning point in terms of how they learn how to play, how they learn how to win in the playoffs, and what they do going forwards too. Because if they don't win, I think there's going to be some looking at maybe getting a little bit bigger on the back end. They've got, like, Makar's not small, but he's not big. Sam Girard's a smaller defenseman. But they don't. What they're missing is just a little more, just being able to handle the physicality that playoff hockey can bring, especially when you're playing against a very formidable forecheck that Vegas brings.
And it's hard. It's something that Derek Ryan said back in 2019 about the Calgary Flames, and I do think it relates a little bit to the Avs. It's that maturity, and clearly, I do think that is an issue that the Avalanche haven't quite figured out yet. And the Vegas Golden Knights have it. I know that they're 4 years old, but they play like a veteran team. They just seem to know when to get those right. Like Jonathan Marchessault is another one of those guys that seems to score a goal at the right time at the opportune time. Got the tying goal last night. And then Alex Tuck scores a minute and a half into the third period, making it 2-1. They just seem to know when to score those goals. And really, the other thing from Vegas Golden, from the other's perspective, is they could have been knocked out. Colorado dominated. Not only did they dominate the second period, but you talk about a goal that shouldn't have been allowed with 0.8 seconds to go. Marc-Andre Fleury knows he should have had that. That could have been a knockout blow as well, and they withstood all of that to come back. So you got to give Vegas credit for that.
Yeah, they were able to come back, and they, after a bad goal for that first goal, and then they may the franchise may be young, but the players that are on it are not. They've got Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty, who have both been around the block. And they added Alex Pietrangelo on the back, Alec Martinez on the back, both cup winners. Marc-Andre Fleury's won the cup. Like it's not like this team is a young team. It's just the franchises. They've done a very good job getting the right veterans in the right spots and targeting the right top players.
Yep. And okay, so Calgary Flame fans, we need to have a little bit of a chat. Like Canuck fans who were hashtagging "Thank you, Jim" for the last couple of days because Tyler Toffoli scored the overtime winning goal, sending the Montreal Canadiens to the semifinals. Congratulations again to the Canadiens. There is nothing that you can do about this now. It's over. There's no part of this conversation. You're not getting Tyler Toffoli back here. But Drake. The Flames need to let go of the Mark Stone situation. Should the Flames have made the trade? I say yes. Devin says no.
I say yes as well.
But
you've moved. Yeah. It's 2 years ago. You can't go back and change things up. That's where I'm at with a lot of the moves that Canucks made, even just last offseason. Yes, we would love to still have Troy Stecher on the team. Yes, I would love to still have Tyler Toffoli on the team, but you can't. You move on. You look forwards. You can have the critical thought of saying, well, if you look at how this was handled, I don't know if I can have that conversation. But if you're just going back and just like pining for your ex and pining for the never was, I think it's time to just. I think Flames fans are a lot better at this than the Canucks fans, in my experience. Especially like you look at me trying to bring up the Dougie Hamilton trades, because both of them I think you can look back at and say, ooh, maybe. But everyone's moved on. But the Mark Stone one I think is just one that. You look at what the Flames need, what the Flames are missing, and that's a Mark Stone. And I think this team is significantly better with his presence on the ice, what he can do in the locker room, his defensive play ability, as well as clutch play and being able to score and a big body. The Flames can play pesky, but they're not. I wouldn't call them a big team. And I think that's something that he would have brought. But at this point, we're in 2021. The Flames have the 12th overall pick in the upcoming draft. They've got Daryl Sutter's back. They have to make a decision on one or two of their forwards going into this offseason. I think we are going to see a big trade out of the Calgary Flames. And Flames fans should be excited at the possibility of something big coming out of this management team and out of this franchise this summer.
Yeah, I'm going to say something a little controversial that might piss some Flame fans off.
Do it.
But no, I say this as a person that follows these two organizations very closely, the Flames and the Canucks. And I think there's some Flame fans that are trying to Canuck fan their way into analysis. And what I mean by that is try to I'm not going to sit here and say that I've been super enamored by Brad Treliving, and we've had that conversation, but I feel like they're trying to act like Canuck fans in some ways. And it's like, oh, look at this, they could have done this, and I just think. I'm not saying stay in your lane. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I don't think that organizations are necessarily super parallel. They're not in the exact same situation, and there's not exact the things that happen. There situations that happen in Vancouver with a COVID breakout that and there are things that happen in Calgary, like a players only meeting. There are far different circumstances that you can't Canuck analyze what happened in Calgary. And I do see some Flame fans doing that. And I just don't think that works. And I also think with both situations with Toffoli and Stone, there's probably something in there that we don't know happened. And it could be, even with the Toffoli interviews, he said, Pat Brisson convinced me that Montreal would be a good city. And maybe it's a better fit in Montreal. Maybe whatever happened in Montreal worked. Whatever happened in Vegas for Mark Stone worked, and it may not have worked here. That's just the other side of it, and that as fans we don't know.
Yeah, there are stuff we don't know, but it just sucks when you see someone who you thought you were really hoping that your team would get or had and lost doing really well.
Yeah.
I just want to remind Canucks fans that if you look at Tyler Toffoli's career as a whole, and you look at his season, he's having one hell of a career season, one hell of a great run here, and he deserves all the credit in the world. But if you take out this season, you look at Tanner Pearson versus Tyler Toffoli for the 3 or 4 seasons before that, it's pretty much a saw-off. Pearson scored more. Toffoli was a better playmaker and was on lines that was on the ice for a little more of the control of the play. So I would still take Toffoli over Pearson, but the Canucks still have a good sort of second, third line player in Tanner Pearson, and the contract, while he is a little bit older, is still actually not that bad. I think that we as Canucks fans are jilted lovers with bad contracts, with the Jay Beagles, the Brandon Sutters, and the Antoine Roussel contracts that have all not aged well.
Yeah, and this contract for the Canadians may not age well either. We don't know. He finishes at 33, and there's going to be. I'm going to tell you now. Some of these people that are bragging about this Tyler Toffoli contract in a few years are going to be questioning why the Montreal Canadiens signed it and act like a hockey hipster and said that they knew it. So I'm just going to tell you now, bullshit. Okay, you didn't know then, you don't know now. I'm sorry. I'm starting to feel a little annoyed with hockey hipsters, what I'm calling hockey hipsters, that think they just like. Let me go on a long rant about that, but we don't know that, and I think
4.25 for a 33-year-old may not look good.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you may be happy with this contract now, and this may be the first year, but we'll still have to see where that fits, right?
And he, as I said, he's due for regression after this amazing season. If you look at his career, and he has had a pretty long one. This isn't like he's 4 years in and he shot 10% for the first 3 and 18 this year. We're talking about a good long career where he's put up 20, 30 goal seasons before, but for the most part, he's been like sort of around that 20 goal plateau and shooting around 10 to 11%.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah. And everything we have seen about Mark Stone is absolutely correct. I love the guy. Would have loved to see him with the Flames. Absolutely. Just didn't work out. And didn't work out. I think the price was probably, when I look at the price that Mark Stone was traded for and hear that the Flames said that the price was too much, I wonder what's going on there, because Brandstrom, a prospect and a second, was it. That was the price to acquire Mark Stone. Brandstrom has been underwhelming as a prospect.
He was highly touted, but they didn't even get a first-round pick for him. It was a second-round pick. So I really wonder what the actual price was. If as you said, maybe we aren't hearing the whole story, because when I hear them say the price was too high and I look at what he went for, I think that's a bit rich, in my opinion, in terms of trying to sell sell it to the fans.
Well, and we've mentioned this before, but I think what happened here is the organization, certainly I think this is one of the themes of the Flames this year. The organization was really high on Juuso Välimäki, all maybe too high, and Daryl Sutter isn't as high on Juuso Välimäki. And to be fair, he had an injury that he's recovering for. He had a significant injury that he recovered for, and I think that that's part of it. And maybe without that injury, he would have been much in a better place. But that's part of, I think, the disconnect. It certainly seems to me that Daryl Sutter, and even with Dylan Dubé, who was also reportedly part of that deal. I said the word reportedly. I'm still high on Dylan Dubé. I still think he's going to be a significant National Hockey League contributor, but seems to me that the Flames may have been higher on Dylan Dubé than Daryl Sutter was. So, who knows?
Well, Dylan Dubé is still a significant National Hockey League player right now. He's a good third liner. You've got a good third line. Like, can he be more? I think there's definitely potential. But even as a third liner, I think he's very, very useful to any team out there, and let alone just the Flames. And then, yeah, Välimäki is a bit more of a mystery box. You don't know what he's like. Again, this is such a weird season. He started out in Finland, had to come over, had to do the whole quarantine thing. We don't know how that affected it. I want to stress that enough. Any player who had to go through significant quarantine, where you have to stay in your own place, not go out, not train properly, not do anything and not be able to skate, and then have to get right into regular season play. It's tough. So I think the players who were able to do it deserve a lot of credit, but the players who weren't able to pull that off, I don't think we should be being too harsh on them.
That's fair. Yeah, I would agree, but it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me about what Daryl Sutter has said. I know that there's some people out there that are not fans of what Daryl Sutter's language or Daryl Sutter's approach to hockey, but he also said that he felt that there was a sense of entitlement on this team. And I think that is a significant phrase to say. From a guy like Daryl Sutter, to say that, I think that's a pretty significant message to me, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we're going to see a big trade out of the Flames this year. I think we are going to see one of Monahan, Gaudreau, or Tkachuk moved.
Yeah,
because I think they want to shake things up and make a big statement to that locker room, make a big statement to the rest of the team, saying we're not putting up with this anymore. We have to take this next step. We have to figure out why we got swept in 2019 to a team that we were the division champions, conference champions, and we got swept. The gentleman's sweep, 5 games.
Yeah.
In 2019, you couldn't get past Dallas in the bubble last year, and you did. What happened this year? You have to look. Yes, this season is a weird, but you still have to look at it and go, what happened here? Why did Tkachuk's play fall off so much after that players only meeting? What happened there? Who is telling Tkachuk to rein it in when he's at his best? He's an absolute shithead asshole rat. I mean that in the best way possible, because when he's on, He's in every scrum. He's causing havoc. He's pissing off the other team's fans. That's when Tkachuk is at his best, and he wasn't doing that this year. Why wasn't he doing that? What happened?
Well, even the Sam Bennett situation, you look back on that, and both Bennett and Treliving admitted that they could have, direct quote from Brad Treliving, both admitted they could have handled it better. So there's something within that organization that is and I'm not within I'm interpreting, but what I'm interpreting here is there's something within that organization that it needs to change in some way, shape, or form, and they know it. And I think both Treliving and Sutter know that needs to happen.
And we talked about that they're leaving the Dome and going into the new arena in a couple of years' time. They need to start building up goodwill with this fan base and making them want to go watch this team play. Because if they don't, it's going to be tough to sell more expensive tickets to that newer arena.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a damaged brand in Calgary. It's my personal opinion.
I don't think it's damaged right now, but I think it can be.
Fair.
It's not damaged right now because I think everything that's going on, I think fans will be clamoring to get back. If you can make a big splash, bring it and make a good trade that everyone is for the most part has good press about, and then you go in and you make a couple other good moves, and then you start winning early next year. A lot of these issues go away. Winning and good press solves a lot. I don't think they're past the point of that. When I hear damaged brand, I think of stuff like it's beyond just a good winning streak.
I think there's a dent for sure. They're not in Buffalo Sabres territory, no. But this is an important offseason and an important season for the Flames for sure.
Yeah, it's on. They're on the verge of getting to a point where fans will find other ways to spend their precious expendable incomes.
Let's get to some other news. We have our poll, but first, the Norris candidates have been named: Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, and Adam Fox of the New York Rangers. And first of all, is there anyone that you felt snubbed?
I thought Dougie Hamilton deserved at least a consideration this year. But I like those three. I like those three picks. It's interesting to see that both Adam Fox and Makar got the nod, which I think means that we're starting to see a little bit more willingness to give more offensively inclined defensemen nods for this award, which is good because I think there have been players in the past that have had really good seasons, but because they weren't quote unquote good defensively. Got snubbed out of it. I'm looking at Mike Green, Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns. Karlsson and Burns got their due at least at one point, but there was other years that they definitely didn't get enough votes in my opinion. But I like it, but I think it's Hedman's award this year. I think he's your the player you want to build your blue line around is someone that can play all situations, has the experience, and is able to eat up minutes like nothing else, and that's what Hedman does.
I think this is Hedman's award to win, but I think that this may be closer than it should be because I think that there's some people I think some voters are going to give Adam Fox a bit more votes than he probably deserves on two levels. For one, he plays in New York, which I think is more of a visible market. And the other thing is some feel he was snubbed out of the Calder, and they may want to make that up to him. So I hope
that's not a reason to give him the votes.
I'm not saying he should win. I'm not saying that, but I think that this is I think this is clearly. I think the next two awards, there are clearly hands down, no questions about it, winners. But I wonder if this one's a bit closer than it should be.
Yep, I think it's Adam Fox is a very good defenseman. Has really taken a step forwards, but I look at players like Dougie Hamilton, who's and let's go back to Jacob Slavin, because he doesn't put up points. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves for this award. And then as well, I'm just going through like the top end point producing defensemen. I think look at Chris Letang as well. I think he was someone that I hope is high up in the in the voting. And then Jeff Petrie. I think if he was a bigger name, had more clout to either being a younger like Makar and Fox, or younger with a lot of momentum behind him, I think he would have gotten a vote there for sure.
Yeah. If in Canada, I probably, if it was for the North Division, it would have been either Jeff Petrie. I would have probably considered Darnell Nurse for the North Division. I'm not saying Nurse should have been a Norris Trophy contender, although I'm sure Oilers YYC may disagree with me on that. But Darnell Nurse had a really good year.
16 goals, 15 of them on even strength.
Yeah. So I don't think I could put him in the Norris in the top three, but I
think he definitely deserves it. Petrie and Nurse were had the best seasons of the top the defensemen in the North Division for sure. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really good options out there. I think the three that got the nod are definitely deserving of it. Although I think that when I look at this even more, I think that I just think that there's other options out there that would have been just as deserving, but these three are definitely deserving of this. I don't think there's anyone who got more, who is like really truly snubbed. Yeah, it was close this year, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So our poll question today was: which of the three Norris Trophy nominated defensemen would you have to start your franchise? And let me pull up what. Do you have the poll there?
I got it.
Yeah. I would have tell you my vote for this would have been Victor Hedman. I just think that this is a guy that you clearly, even at his age, that you want. He's got a Nicholas Lidstrom quality to him. I'm not comparing him to Nicholas Lidstrom, but he's got a certain quality to him that I just think it's hard that you can win with those type of defensemen. Like Cale Makar is getting there, but I think that Vegas is overall exposing that defense in a general sense, and Adam Fox is coming, but I still think needs some work. So for me, that would have been Victor Hedman, and he is leading. With 45.
For me, it's Hedman, and again, as I mentioned when we talked about the awards, he's a number one defenseman who plays all situations, can play as many minutes as you need, and does it really well. There's a lot of big minute defensemen that basically tread water. That's not Victor Hedman. Like he's a fantastic defenseman. Deserves all the recognition that he gets, and just has this presence out there that he's out there, and you have to game plan for him, whether you're playing against him on the offense or he's attacking you and you're on defense. You have to game plan for him. The other guys, they had great seasons, but I just don't see them having the same presence on the ice that Victor Hedman does at this point.
Yeah, I agree. But feel free to vote, podcast_hockey, comment on here. Let us know what you think. Tomorrow is the Hart, and then the final one is the Jack Adams. So we'll get to those when they happen. One other thing I wanted to quickly touch on: the Red Deer Rebels have hired a new coach. Brent Sutter was a longtime coach for that organization, but former Washington Capital Steve Konowlachuk played 790 games, 171 goals, 225 assists. Played for both the Capitals and the Colorado Avalanche. Was a head coach for the Seattle Thunderbirds for 6 seasons. He even won a Memorial Cup as well with the Seattle Thunderbirds. He's the next head coach for the Red Deer Rebels. So a pretty significant coaching hire for a pretty successful overall franchise in Red Deer, bringing in Steve Konowlachuk. Probably what Red Deer needs as they're building for next year.
Yeah, they definitely are getting a very well-versed coach who's been around the block in multiple roles. The latest one was a scout for the New York Rangers before taking this position. So I think it's a good hire for them, and I'm looking forward to seeing the WHL next year.
Yep, be a good pick there as well. Well, we will leave it there. Tonight, the Bruins play the Islanders. So if the Islanders win, not only will Bruce Cassidy be crying, but we'll be back tomorrow to recap that. If not, we will wait until that series is over. I picked the Islanders to win, so I'm going to stick with the Islanders to win that series, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 7. But the Bruins are injured. They're a wounded animal coming into this battle. But
it sounds like Tuukka Rask will play, which is good for the Bruins. But they're going into Nassau Coliseum and that crowd and everything. I think this is, if the Islanders get up early, it's going to be tough for Boston to gain any momentum and everything there. I think it's just it's all about that first goal tonight. And if the Islanders get it, that place is going to be rocking even more than it will be to start, and it'll be the players will feed off of it.
Yeah, please, dear Lord, can someone make a New York Saints shirt?
Oh, I'm sure they'll be there. There'll be signs, there'll be shirts. It's going to happen. Someone's probably getting the New York Saints lacrosse team stuff as well, because that's actually a team. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll see multiple references to that comment by the Islanders crowd.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we will be back tomorrow. We'll be back when that series is over, not tomorrow. Sorry about that. If it is tomorrow, we'll chat about that. But how do we follow you?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
Devin, Gordhouse09. Tyler, TNOBLE. Chris is SCHEIDZ Schneids. I am KEVOLE. Podcast_hockey. Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast. YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast. Audio, subscribe to the audio. Like this video. If you do like it, share it, retweet it, all of those sort of things. I still think we're the most underrated podcast in hockey. I stand by that. But thanks, everyone. We will talk. And stay tuned for more content. We're doing some off-season stuff. We've got a lot of things going on as well. So thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.